We've been here since
I
sunrise.
know. Just hold the papers tight.
Excuse me, can we squeeze through?
Everyone's waiting, sir. Please.
Looks like the line hasn't moved in an
Sounds
hour.
brutal today. Just a little longer, maybe.
There is a huge problem faced by thousands of people working in Cyprus and hundreds of children born in Cyprus. It's also a problem for children born here to non-EU persons and even adults who migrate to Cyprus but are never able to obtain permanent residency or citizenship. As I showed in my other video, getting either one here is difficult and the process is prone to manual error by indifferent clerks and broken manual processes. There is a multi-year backlog at immigration, and the permanent residency program was even frozen by the government from 2019 to 2025, making the backlog worse. Currently, there are 12,000 people waiting for citizenship, and after 2 years, only about 500 passports have been given to tech workers who are supposed to be able to get passports. This affects mainly Russians who have migrated here in large numbers to avoid the war with Ukraine. The situation in Cyprus for working people is the same as it is for those working in the Middle East. People who work in Saudi Arabia, etc., cannot retire there. There have been some small changes to that in a couple of countries there. The problem is this: permanent residency is for people who won't work in Cyprus. There is no provision for other people who work here and then retire. Citizenship is only given to highly skilled workers who work for a handful of companies sanctioned by the government. The regular route for citizenship by naturalization is not guaranteed. You can apply after 8 years, but the government can take many years to apply then, even decades. Unlike other European countries, Cyprus makes no provision for children who are born in Cyprus to non-EU parents. When they become 18 years old, their only choice is to go to university. They cannot get work from a Cypriot job unless it pays at least 2,500 euros. When you work in Cyprus and grow old and stop working, you cannot stay in Cyprus? Obviously, you can stay, but you've got to have enough money to qualify for something like the long-term permit based upon 5 years residency. But people who have worked in restaurants and hotels their entire career do not have savings or a pension that is high enough to meet the residency requirements. Most of the immigrants who come to Cyprus to work in tourism come from Bulgaria, Romania, Georgia, and of course asylum seekers who come from all over the world. Many of these are Pontic Greeks. Pontic Greeks come from places like Ukraine, Turkey, and Russia. The Pontics are an ancient community of Greek speakers in the diaspora of Greece whose countries have changed hands over the centuries, depending on which invading army had invaded most recently. In other words, they have been caught behind enemy lines repeatedly over centuries. Cyprus too has been ruled seemingly by everyone in the region with a cannon, trebuchet, or a warship by which to conquer the nation. The Romans, Venetians, Shakespeare's Othello was a Venetian military commander who was dispatched to Cyprus. Greeks and Greek Egyptians, Turks, Persians, and the British. Cyprus has really only ruled itself since the 1960s independence from Britain. Cypriots like the Georgians and Armenians and different Christian communities in Syria have kept their identity and language despite the difficulty of being ruled by someone else. That would take a lot of effort, so Cypriots should be applauded for that. The situation for children born in Cyprus is equally bad. I am from America, one of the few countries in the world to give citizenship to people born there. A child of, say, a Russian or Georgian or an Australian born in Cyprus will at age 18 have to figure out how to remain in the country. A non-EU child born here at age 18 cannot get a work permit unless they are offered a salary of at least 2,500 euros, which is very high for Cyprus. So their best option is to go to university and then look for a high-paying job when they graduate. But most children do not go to university. So a child born in, say, Russia or Georgia, whose parents have never obtained Cyprus citizenship before their children reach 18, will have to leave the country. Russians are 8% of the population here, and most are young IT workers. Their children are going to face this problem as most of their parents are not likely to have obtained citizenship by then. Italy, Spain, and other European countries provide some tools to let children like this regularize their situation. They give them a few years to apply for citizenship on their own. In Cyprus, anyone, including asylum seekers who have been granted asylum, can apply for citizenship after 8 years residency, and if you pass the Greek language test at the B1 level. But in Cyprus today, there are 12,000 applications for citizenship pending. Some people have been waiting as long as 19 years. Politics. Cyprus is at odds with itself. On the one hand, you have business people and property developers who want more foreigners to immigrate. On the other hand, you have Cypriots who want to preserve their country as Cypriot in nature, with a Greek-speaking majority. Finally, to understand why immigration in Cyprus is broken, you have to understand that the Cyprus parliament is divided into three factions, two of which want to make sure their island does not lose its status as a Greek-speaking country. They don't want to be overrun by Russians, Israelis, Lebanese, and British, who are the largest groups immigrating here in that order. It might surprise you a lot to know that the number 2 political party in Cyprus is the Communist Party, AKEL, Progressive Party of Working People. They hold 15 seats in the parliament. DISY, the Democratic Rally, has 17 seats out of 56 in the House of Representatives. Third in numbers, ELAM, National Popular Front, is a growing influence with 4 seats. Like the RN in France or the AFD in Germany or MAGA in America or Reform in the UK, far-right parties are surging in Europe, driven by opposition to immigration. ELAM split off from the neo-Nazi Golden Dawn, the Greek neo-Nazi party that ELAM was originally affiliated with. Golden Dawn was founded in Greece and was outlawed from Greek politics in 2020 after its leaders were convicted and imprisoned for operating as a criminal organization. They were also outlawed when the British were in control because they wanted enosis. Enosis means to join Cyprus to Greece. The 1974 war started here when a Greek colonel came to Cyprus and launched a coup to try to do exactly that. Then the Turkish army invaded. It's still here. Hundreds of thousands of people were forced to move from one side of the frozen front lines to the other, with Turkish Cypriots on one side and the Greek Cypriots on the other. But just because AKEL is communist doesn't mean that Karl Marx is running around and the peasants are not overthrowing their feudal lords. This old political party is just part of their history. In fact, the communists have adopted policies that both favor immigration and allowing English classes in public universities and opposing it. ELAM, far right, almost certainly opposes increased legal immigration based on their hardline nationalist ideology, demographic concerns about foreigners, and actions to cut all migration-related funding. As is the case elsewhere in Europe and the USA, the growing popularity of the right wing means the other political parties will certainly move in their direction. You see this playing out in debates on whether to allow public universities to offer English language degrees. Some insist that every program offered in a foreign language should also exist in one of the university's official languages to ensure equal access. Some want to boost university autonomy while maintaining Greek language alternatives. In January 2025, AKEL submitted legislative proposals to introduce English as a teaching language at all 3 public universities. However, in June 2025, AKEL MP Yorgos Loukaides opposed the government's bills, claiming they were a backdoor attempt to impose tuition fees on currently free degrees. AKEL wants English programs mirrored in Greek to preserve equal access in Cyprus' cultural identity. ELAM takes the most restrictive stance, demanding mass deportations and calling immigration a demographic risk. The issue of culture and identity and language is going to be an issue in the future. Before the war in Cyprus that divided the country in two, the country was 20% Turkish Cypriots. Their language was given protection in all matters. The Turks actually had veto power of every law too, and every village had both a Greek and Turkish mayor. Cyprus is 8% Russian. Now thousands of Russians will have children who will one day insist on equal protection for Russian as a language. And certainly all the Germans, Americans, and Israelis will want government services to be in English. English and Russian-speaking people are going to demand equal representation in government, and their children and children's children will become politicians themselves, so they will be able to influence policy. Russians obviously are going to stay here as their country is at war and is growing poorer by the day. German children will most likely leave as Cyprus is a good place for old people, but boring for the young.
Καλημέρα. Εργάζομαι για το τμήμα μετανάστευσης της Κύπρου και θα ήθελα να σας καλωσορίσω σήμερα στο γραφείο μας. Παρακαλώ, καθίστε. Θα θέλατε έναν καφέ. Τώρα θα δουλέψω στο φάκελο της μετανάστευσής σας. Όπως ξέρετε, δεν είναι πραγματικά χάρτινος φάκελος, είναι ηλεκτρονικός φάκελος. Θα τον ανεβάσω στο νέο μας σύστημα υπολογιστή ChatGPT. Θα επεξεργαστεί την αίτησή σας σε λίγα μόνο δευτερόλεπτα. Αν λείπει κάτι, θα το επισημάνει επίσης. Μετά, μπορείτε να επιστρέψετε στην άνεση του σπιτιού σας και να μου στείλετε email με αυτό που λείπει. Πρώτα όμως, ας κλείσω τα παράθυρα σε αυτό το γραφείο. Έχει πολύ θόρυβο εδώ. Μην τους δίνετε σημασία. Είναι πρώην υπάλληλοι του τμήματος μετανάστευσης και δικηγόροι που παραπονιούνται ότι αυτός ο υπολογιστής τους πήρε τις δουλειές τους. Τους είπα: «Ποιο είναι το πρόβλημα? Μπορείτε να κάνετε σήμερα αυτό που κάνατε όταν δουλεύατε εδώ? Απολύτως τίποτα.